30th of September 2022. You're very welcome back. Just briefly on the African pipeline. Um, in Africa, there is vast resources. There's vast amounts of coal, oil, and gas, good land, and plenty more. And Europe and America and other parts of the world have really treated the people there as slaves, and actually physically treated them as slaves in the past. And but what's happening in most of these countries and in India and other places is that they're trying to pull their people out of poverty, and they're using the very same model that Europe and America and Western countries used for over a century to do so, and that is to exploit their energy resources. Now, the East African pipeline, there are actually two. That both go from around Lake Albert in Uganda, and one goes through Tanzania and the other goes through Kenya. But the main one is the one through Tanzania, and it's known as the East African pipeline. It's 888 miles long, roughly that, 888 miles long. And in that area of Lake Albert, there's 65 billion barrels of oil at least, and at least 3 billion of that is recoverable. I don't know why the rest isn't. They could produce 600 million barrels a day, and they want to pipe it out through this pipeline from inland Africa out to the Indian Ocean, effectively out to the east. And the EU is not happy, nor are the Americans. They're telling them, oh no, oh you mustn't develop your fossil fuel resources. It'll cause climate change. Ew. And John Kerry has been lecturing the Africans even not to use their gas. He gave a kind of a waffle speech in Africa, in where he said that gas replaces coal and coal replaces oil, and this is all nonsense that he goes on with, at a time when his own country is trying to supply Europe with pure fossil fuel, and when there's a hunt all over Europe for fossil fuel. Here they are telling the people of Africa they shouldn't develop theirs. This is the hypocrisy of them. Now, the names are very, very peculiar, hard to pronounce, but a Uganda Tanzanian oil. So January make Amba. Oh, it's very difficult to. He's the Tanzanian energy minister. Makes the point that they are entitled to develop, and I think that the EU must have some hold on them. Now, one of the main companies that's in for 60% share in this is Total from France, and they're in, but there's huge pressure on them to withdraw. So the president of Tanzania has made a statement saying, if you don't do it, we'll get someone that will. We'll get someone else that will. And here is a French company, Total, which is European, which in my opinion should be in there and keep the European influence, and they're trying to drive them out. And if they drive them out, who's going to come in? You guessed it, China, and maybe India. Now, this oil could go straight to India. It's crude oil, and apparently the pipeline has to be heated to get the crude oil to flow. Now, also, Uganda is trying to build refineries, and this gas is only discovered quite recently, and they're trying to improve the lifestyles and the life well-being of their people, using fuel the very same as we are doing in Europe and in the rest of the world. But they're trying to stop them, and this is the New World Order. They want the Africans to be climate victims. They want to impose carbon taxes in Europe and pay the carbon taxes, a part of it, to the Africans as climate victims to put up windmills which don't work. And this is what they want. They want to use these people as victims. They want to be able to say, look at these. But what's happening is the people of Africa and other countries are saying, no, you keep out, we'll develop our own. Now, of course, it's not that easy developing these resources without a bit of help. But if Europe goes on the way it is, there won't be a European influence, and it'll lose its influence in Africa. Now, this is the name of the company chairman. He's Abdul Samad Abdul Rahman. Rahman. Oh, look at. I'm not going to make an effort to pronounce it. And he's the chairman. He's the chairman of it, and he makes the same point. Well, there's no doubt there are people going to be displaced. There's, I think, a lot of families and that. It's amazing that they couldn't run it in some way and put it on the ground like the pylons in Ireland or something. But apparently, no, it has to go over ground. It's a big thing, and there are going to be a lot of people displaced. But apparently, it's exaggerated, and the assessments done by the EU were not checked out on the ground or anything else, and they're not giving the truth. So he says, makes the point, we have to develop. Now, to my own mind, as someone who is a victim of the EU's wind energy programme, where it shoehorned these in against the wishes of the people and destroyed people's property and lives, I can see the point of view of the local people. But on the other hand, a balance has to be always be struck. Over in Mahercloon near Carbercross, the gypsum mines are there, and they have affected badly a lot of that area, but they have compensated and tried to make to help every way they could, and there's no real animosity against them, as opposed to all these pylons and wind energy where there's nothing for anybody, and where with the gypsum there's a product, there's no product with renewable energy. In this case here, there is a product. They can produce good quality oil for everyone, and relieve the pressure of the fossil fuel situation. And you'd think that Europe would say, right, well, that's good, get it going there, keep it right, and we'll help you out. Instead of that, they're trying to turn the Tanzanian and Ugandan governments, who to my mind seem to be quite reasonable and quite functional, they're trying to turn them away, and we know who's going to move in when that happens. John Kerry was over there in Africa, and he's given out too, oh, you can't be doing this, climate change, climate change, climate change. We can see where this is all leading. The resources are not going to be left in the ground. This oil in Tanzania, in Uganda, and as it goes out, and even in Tanzania, and I think that Kenya has some as well, it's on land. That's the important point. There is security issues with terrorism, but it's on land. You don't have to go out into the sea, and you can get it going. And so it's highly valuable resource. But instead of trying to coax and help develop it, you must leave it in the ground. That's the American and that's the European point of view. Leave it in the ground. And they have no right to be in that country at all. They won't let the African farmers make chocolate, process it, and sell it into Europe. So it's the same old story. The European involvement in Africa has not been to the help of any Africans. They have brought no joy to them much or very little, and they have done them a lot of harm. And now it looks to me like the people of the world, Africa, India, and other parts of the world are saying, sorry, we have enough of you, just buzz off. And I think I can well understand that. It's a great pity because it's not the way I would like to see it. I'd like to see Europe and everyone involved in that and being partners with the people, and to see happy people, well fed and well looked after in Africa. But the West will try in every way it possibly can to thwart them. And I think it was the Tanzanian president made the point, well, if you want that way, off you go, we'll get somebody else. That's sad. That's the kind of creeps that we elect, that we send to Europe, and we send to the European Parliament and the European Commission, and also the kind of a bucko they have. And he's nearly 80. Him and Biden, John Kerry, again over there trying to thwart it. And if they had control of it, I don't think there'd be any problem at all. It's really the fact that there's the old world order is being replaced by the East, by Africa, China, and all these places. And I made that point, and they're rapidly losing control in the West. Their influence is dwindling and will dwindle more. So I think that we should clap any country on the back that has pulled itself out of this plague of poverty that has affected these unfortunate parts of the world, and let them come on and prosper there. And that's the way I'd like to see it, but that's not the way the EU sees it, or America. And thankfully, the EU and America is having less and less influence by the day. Go to give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. We'll see you back for something else. You'll get videos on the East African pipeline on YouTube and on other channels. You'll get those videos and you'll be able to see there's plenty of comment on all this, on the evolving and changing world situation. Goodbye. Thank you.